At 82, I've learned many lessons about life, but one decision stands out as my biggest regret: moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right choice. My family encouraged it, promising I'd receive the care and comfort I needed. I trusted them, but once I got there, I quickly realized the reality was nothing like what I had imagined. If you or a loved one is considering a nursing home, you may think it's the safest and most convenient option. Maybe you've been told it will make life easier. But before you make that decision, I want to share 6 things I wish I had known before I moved in. Life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience. It changes everything. And getting out is far more difficult than you might think. Stay with me until the end, because these lessons might surprise you. If you know someone thinking about making this move, this could be exactly what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. Regret 1: losing my independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room, the set meal times, or the unfamiliar faces. It was the realization that I had lost control over my own life. Before I moved in, I lived on my own terms. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a walk whenever I wanted, cook my own meals, or simply enjoy a quiet afternoon with my favorite book. Every choice was mine to make. But inside the nursing home, everything operated on a strict schedule. Breakfast was served at a set time, whether I was hungry or not. Lights went out at a designated hour, even if I wasn't ready for bed. If I wanted to take a walk, I needed permission and had to wait until someone was available to assist me. Simple decisions became privileges, not rights, das. I remember my first week there. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I reached for the book I had been reading back at home, but when I looked around, it hit me. This wasn't my home. My familiar chair, my shelves of cherished books, and the small comforts I'd spent years collecting were gone. In their place were bare walls and sterile furniture. The hardest part, realizing that once you give up your independence, getting it back is nearly impossible. You adjust because you have to. You stop questioning why dinner is always the same. You stop asking to go for a walk on a whim. And slowly, you lose a part of yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them far more than you ever thought possible. Regret 2: feeling forgotten. One of the most painful realities of moving into a nursing home is realizing how quickly the world moves on without you. When I first arrived, my family assured me they would visit often. They came frequently at first, bringing familiar comforts and stories from the outside world. I clung to those visits like a lifeline, but soon, the visits grew less frequent. Excuses piled up: busy schedules, work obligations, family commitments. I understood, but that didn't make the loneliness any easier. In a nursing home, time moves differently. Days blur together, marked only by the ringing of meal bells and the scheduled routines of caregivers. The silence becomes deafening. You wait for the phone to ring, hoping to hear a familiar voice, only to be disappointed when it doesn't. And when visitors do come, the conversations often feel rushed, like a task to check off a list. Hey, the truth is, no one tells you how isolating it can be. You become an afterthought, a distant memory in the lives of those you once held close. The world outside moves forward, but inside the walls of a nursing home, it feels like everything has stood still. I wish someone had warned me how lonely it would feel. I wish I had understood that relying on others for companionship would leave me feeling so forgotten. If you're thinking about a nursing home, consider whether you're prepared for that reality, because the emotional toll can be harder than any physical discomfort. These are just the first 2 regrets I carry from my experience. In the coming sections, I'll share 4 more lessons that I wish I had known before making this life-altering choice. My hope is that by hearing my story, you'll be able to make a more informed decision, one that protects not only your physical well-being, but your emotional and mental health as well. When I first moved into the nursing home, my family promised they would visit often. At the beginning, they kept their word. My daughter came by once a week, and my grandchildren visited on weekends. For a little while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as time passed, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren grew busier with school and work. Holidays were especially painful. Everyone said they'd visit, but plans always seemed to change at the last minute. I spent many afternoons in the common room, watching other residents stare at the door. silently hoping that today would be the day someone came to see them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life simply got in the way. When you're not around, it's easy for people to assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, and that you don't need as much attention. But the truth is, the longer you stay in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget how much you still need them. I remember one evening, sitting alone in my room with the phone in my hand. I thought about calling my son, but I hesitated. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down. That's when the realization hit me. This was my life now. Days passed and I waited, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easier than you think to become out of mind. Regret 3. Losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was simply changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also giving up a large part of why I lived. At home, I had routines, responsibilities, and hobbies that gave me a sense of purpose. From watering my plants to making my morning coffee, every little task made me feel productive. These moments, however small, brought meaning to my day. But in the nursing home, those routines vanished. Meals were brought to me, my room was cleaned by staff, and the plants weren't mine to care for. At first, I told myself it was a relief. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just rest. But after a few weeks, the emptiness set in. The days felt unbearably long. With no tasks to complete or goals to achieve, there was nothing to break up the hours except waiting for the next meal or the next bedtime. I saw the same emptiness in other residents. People who had once been full of life now spent their days sitting, staring, and waiting. There was a man named George, 84 years old, who had spent his life as a carpenter. Back at home, he was always working on something, building, repairing, creating. But here, there were no tools, no projects, no purpose. I watched as he slowly withdrew, his once strong hands now idle in his lap. I feel useless, he told me one day. And I knew exactly what he meant. Shachain, aprada, no fimine etizo, shachain miri karats, shachanu fimine eti. Mini mine, fraguma etizov, shachain mak, shachain mini minhe. When you no longer have something to care for or work toward, life loses its meaning. The mind slows, the body follows, and you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves but nothing really changes. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into a nursing home, I was doing relatively well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I was independent. I could cook my own meals, go for walks, and handle my daily routines. Simple tasks like grocery shopping and stretching in the morning kept me active and strong. But everything changed once I moved in. At first, it seemed like I was just taking it easy. Meals were delivered to my room, so I no longer had to stand in the kitchen. The staff handled the cleaning and laundry. Even short walks became rare. I didn't need to go anywhere. What I didn't realize was how quickly this lack of activity would affect my body. Muscles weakened without regular movement. My balance became unsteady, and soon, tasks that once felt easy became challenging. Instead of encouraging residents to stay active, the environment made it too easy to sit still. And the longer I stayed sedentary, the harder it became to regain strength. I thought I was choosing comfort. What I didn't see was how that comfort could lead to a rapid decline in my physical health. If you're considering a nursing home, think carefully about how it may impact your mobility and overall well-being. Maintaining independence means more than avoiding falls. It means staying active, even in small ways. Once you stop using your body, it won't take long before it stops working the way it used to. These are just a few of the regrets I carry. My hope in sharing this is that it gives you a clearer perspective. A nursing home is not just a place to live. It's a choice that will change your entire experience of life. Make sure you're truly prepared for what that means. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought the convenience would make life easier. If I needed anything, all I had to do was press a button and someone would come to help. But what I didn't realize was how quickly I would lose my strength by relying on others. Mga nun ay manuman. I stopped moving as much. My legs became stiff, and getting up from a chair began to feel like a challenge. The muscles I had worked hard to maintain started to disappear faster than I ever expected. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. Residents who arrived walking on their own soon needed walkers. Others who had once been independent now relied on wheelchairs. Drew at CC. The truth is, the more assistance we received, the more dependent we became. I'll never forget my neighbor, Alice, an 81-year-old woman full of energy when she first arrived. She insisted that she wouldn't slow down just because of her age. Every day, she took walks around the facility, determined to stay active. But over time, those walks grew less frequent. First, she used a walker, then a wheelchair. One day, she turned to me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." That's exactly how it felt. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. In a nursing home, everything is designed for ease and efficiency. But when life becomes too easy, it's easy to forget how important movement is, not just for convenience, but for survival. If I had known how fast I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to stay active. I would have moved more, even when it was difficult. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything around you is designed to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up is harder than you think. Regret 5. Losing my privacy and dignity. Before I moved into a nursing home, I didn't realize how much I valued my privacy. At home, I had my own space. I could shut my bedroom door, enjoy quiet moments, and go about my day on my own terms. But in a nursing home, privacy becomes a luxury, one that many residents don't get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being observed. Staff came in and out of my room for scheduled checks. Shared spaces offered little solitude. Even something as simple as getting dressed or using the bathroom often required assistance. I know the caregivers were just doing their jobs, but accepting help for tasks I had done independently my whole life was one of the hardest adjustments. I remember how strange it felt that I had to ask for permission for basic things. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until a staff member is available. Need to use the bathroom? Pressing the call button doesn't guarantee immediate help. Sometimes you just have to wait. And if you don't like what's on the day's menu, too bad. Then there's the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. I was fortunate to have a kind roommate, but others weren't as lucky. Some residents ended up sharing a space with people who were loud, unclean, or had cognitive issues that disrupted sleep. Even when you try to make your room feel like home, it never fully feels like it's yours. The loss of privacy strips away more than just comfort. It takes a toll on your dignity. People knock, but they don't always wait for a response before entering. You're spoken to like a patient instead of a person. Your daily schedule is dictated by someone else. Slowly, you start to feel like just another name on a list, instead of an individual with a lifetime of experiences. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's incredibly hard to get it back. Regret 6. Realizing how hard it is to leave. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was only temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how it went, and if I didn't like it, I could simply leave. But what I didn't realize was just how difficult it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it seemed straightforward. If I wasn't happy, I could go back home. But home wasn't the same anymore. I had sold most of my belongings and given up the house I had lived in for decades. My independence had slipped away, and without regular activity, my physical strength had diminished. Tasks I used to manage easily became daunting. And it's not just the physical challenges, it's the mental toll. Leaving a nursing home means making arrangements, navigating paperwork, and sometimes convincing people that you're capable of living independently again. Even if you're determined, the system often makes it harder than it should be. Kensei or hush, kensei or fumwa. I wish I had truly understood how much harder it would be to regain my freedom once I gave it up. If you're thinking about a nursing home, consider whether it's the best long-term choice. Because while it might feel like a temporary solution, getting out isn't always as simple as it sounds. These regrets aren't easy to share, but I hope my experiences can help others think twice before making a decision. A nursing home can provide care, but it often comes at the cost of independence, dignity, and connection. Take the time to consider all your options. And if you do choose this path, stay committed to keeping your body strong, holding on to your sense of purpose, and maintaining the connections that matter most. After moving into the nursing home, My house wasn't the same anymore. It sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became difficult. My children had already started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need, and even discussing the possibility of renting it out. When I brought up the idea of going back home, they hesitated. Hapena, are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you. Their words were filled with concern, but they also made me question myself. Months of relying on the nursing home services had taken a toll. I wasn't cooking, cleaning, or moving around much. The independence I once cherished slipped away faster than I ever expected. Suddenly, the thought of returning home felt overwhelming. I wasn't alone in feeling this way. Many others I met had the same experience. They thought they would try the nursing home for a short time, only to discover that leaving wasn't as easy as they had imagined. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to adjust to life outside. For some, the option to leave disappeared entirely. Their homes were sold or their savings were depleted by the cost of care. The choice they thought they had was gone. That's the part no one tells you. Moving into a nursing home feels like a reversible decision, something temporary, but for most people, it isn't. The nursing home slowly becomes your entire world, and before you know it, the life you once knew starts to feel like a distant memory. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that leaving may not be as simple as you think? Financial, physical, and emotional barriers can be far harder to overcome than you might expect. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I went in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly stripped away my independence, my privacy, my sense of purpose, and even my sense of self. That's not to say that all nursing homes are inherently bad. For some people who need full-time care, they provide essential support. But before making that choice, think carefully about what you're giving up, because once you move in, life will never be quite the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have explored more ways to receive help without giving up my freedom. And I would have made absolutely sure that I needed to be there before committing to such a permanent decision. If you're facing a similar choice, I encourage you to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me? Or is it simply what seems easiest right now? Because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, is worth holding on to for as long as possible. Thank you for joining me and listening to my story. I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned today? How will you apply it to your life? Your thoughts matter, and sharing them may help others who are navigating the same decision. If you found this helpful, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. Your support allows us to continue creating content that informs and inspires. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.